This home, our company's called Admire Concrete Homes, a name that a friend of mine came up with, by the way. But and the design team is myself and my wife Juanita. She's an architectural designer, and obviously Paul and Nikki. And so this project evolved from a meeting with Paul and Nikki where we sort of got a bit of a design brief, and they had some ideas of what they wanted. It wasn't too rigorous, and we put our pen to paper and came up with a design, and basically this was it, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much first hit.
Pretty much this time.
Bit of tweaking on the inside. It's 238 square metres over foundation. It's a little tricky to work out square metres because like this wall behind me is 400 thick. Do you include it or not? So just over found. The fundamental of the house is it's a thermal mass house. So all the structural elements are within the thermal envelope. And so then the concrete that you're seeing here, well, some of it is structural like that column, but most of the outer walls are outside that thermal envelope. We call them a waif. So it's just a thin layer of concrete over the insulation. So a typical wall, 300 thick wall, is 150 structural on the inside of the wall. And then we put PIR, and then we put concrete on the outside. Typically that's 60 mil PIR and 90 concrete. And that's pretty much how we're rolling. This house had 75 and then 75, but I've gone to 60 and 90. But I have to maybe update that with the new codes. But, and so that's the typical wall. We've sort of fine-tuned some things in construction. This is our first home that we designed, the first one we built like this. So this is how we sort of kicked off. And this is kind of the inspiration that we have. This is what we want to do. We want to be creative. We want to never stop pushing the envelope and do things that we can be proud of. Juanita and I have always said, if we can't live in the house, we're not going to build it. So that's sort of where we set our benchmark many years ago. The foundations are all insulated, and then that insulation meets the insulation on the side wall of the foundation beams. So on the outside wall, that insulation goes below floor level to meet the insulation underneath the beams, right? So it's, yeah, and then there's concrete over that. So that outer waste concrete goes right down below the ground. And then that insulation comes up and meets the insulation on the concrete ceiling. So that meets as well. And then on top of that, so the roof is a warm roof. So it's kind of fully insulated. The only real gaps around the windows where the two layers of concrete meet. There's a bit of concrete going around the end.
And the windows are thermally broken.
And the windows are thermally broken. If you want insulation to go all the way to the window jamb, you're only asking for problems. And we pour the exterior wall in one pour, so we're pouring the internal part and the external part all in the one go. So it's a little tricky, but we know what we're doing. We've got systems to take care of all the bugs, and so at the moment when we do things, I'm not very strict. Going on. So all the services are in the walls. We sort of decided we didn't want to see any. I mean, one of our pet peeves is seeing vent pipes and stuff around the houses and stuff. So you can't see any of that here. It's all in the concrete walls. Down pipes are in the insulation layer, so we reduced the size of them to 65 mil to fit in the 75 insulation. So that's all good. The only pipes you're going to see are the overflows. We don't have a skip on site because we don't have any waste. What else we'll say? That's about it, really. I'd like to invite you to ask questions. You got something else you want to add?
Well, Paul and Nikki have an Instagram page of their house, and they take photos of it, and it's just. But
You wrote some notes,
how long did it take to build this?
Well, not very long, really.
No, less than 12 months.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think we started in
10 months. I think it was.
in March, and you moved in for Christmas.
Yeah.
10 months build.
So there's the notes I wrote earlier today. So there's about 200 cubes of thermal mass concrete in the house. What people don't realise until they really look is that the walls and ceilings are poured at the same time. There's no join there, right? There's no precast.
It's monolithic.
It's all monolithic, and which I think, for me, I used to be a structural engineer, so it's kind of like the way to go. Can't stand precast panels, all that load on a little weld plate. So, but it lends itself to the finished product. Warm roof, that's 200 thick to 300. So we've really overdone it on the R values and so on. I think we're about 1.5 times the required code at the time we consented this job. So self-compacting concrete, theoretically it's what's called 30 MPa concrete, but it's because of the water cement ratio and chemicals and things that you put in it. So ultimately it tests well over 50. We've had over 60 on some of the testing.
Which is so waterproof.
And it's waterproof in itself. And then so on pour day, we would have self-compacting, say 3 or 4 trucks, and then there might be 2 or 3 other trucks arrive after that. So I pour all the walls with the boys, and then we hand it over to your typical concrete placer, and then they'll do what we call the deck, the ceilings or the roofs or whatever. And pours go generally well. We use alloyed concrete, and they have a sustainability program on their concrete. They know what we're up to. We don't pour early in the day. We wait till all the rush of craziness of slabs are done, and we usually pour starting around 10, 11 o'clock. We have very little cleanup, just hose the forms, bit of grout comes out, joins
We
the
strip
things.
the next day.
Yeah, we strip the walls the next day, strip the ceiling deck on day 2.
Leave the props up for about 28 days.
28 days on
Yep.
the property. I mean, as soon as you can strip formwork, the easier it is to clean, right? Everyone knows that, the easier to get off. Yeah.
But it's quite revealing, isn't it, when you take them out? And there was one incident where Paula Necki came over. It was a very, very hot day, and when you came over to look at the paints and things, and walking into the house before any of the windows were put into it, it was just the structure, and it was very cool. And it's when you really, really clicks home that this is how it works.
Yeah, we live in, if we would have no heating on, it's around 17 degrees constantly. So even the biggest challenge always is when you have a lot of solar gain through an amount of windows like that. But even on the hottest day, we had a very hot day last summer. I think it was about 34, 35, and out here was pretty incredibly hot. And even that night, there was none of that so hot to be inside. So we don't have air conditioning. The only cooling is by windows open and a nice wee breeze going through in our fan, and that's all we need for cooling. And it's never been uncomfortable to sleep at night. We did just install blinds last year. Up until then, because there was nothing built over there, we kind of lived a life of openness, but we have actually put some blinds in, and that obviously if we really wanted to drop them during the day to keep that solar gain out, we could do, but we haven't really seen any need to.
And everybody loves the shower. If you haven't seen the shower,
easiest shower in the world to clean too, because you've only got the tiles. Nothing actually hits that window
that's
really.
right.
So yeah.
Our ventilation system, like the ventilation is not on in this house, or is
No, just open the window, got the fan.
You'll see some of the joinery, there's little wee low opening windows around sort
around
of
the other side,
level,
and that helps.
as well as there's some of these high ones here, so you can create that sort of coolness flow.
It's amazing in the bathroom.
children to open those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The low window was Juanita's idea to get that sort of some cooler air. So if you've got some cooler air around the shade, it's in the afternoon. It's going to be cooler air on the east side of the house. If you create some air coming through there.
At the floor level, it creates that sort of circular vent, which
And
is
it
And that
works really well.
circulating fan, that has a great effect. Like we've got a house that overheats, and I'm saying to my wife, I think we need some of these babies.
You need a fan. I'm a fan of the fan.
So
gotta
you
say.
notice it a bit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So we use it. We've got a summer and winter. So although we do have to be a bit careful in the winter because the heat from the fire does rise, and because the flue comes up through our walk-in road, that up there just gets so cosy and warm. But we just leave it on all year round, so it's just on. Yeah. So, but I always suggest that as a cooling. I'm not a fan of air conditioning. My skin doesn't react very well to it, so I certainly find living in this house far more comfortable than,
You've got hydronic heating in the
Yes,
floor.
we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I set it quite high in the winter time because knowing that it's all done on temperature anyway and thermostat, so I have it sitting at 23 degrees, which is walk around bare feet and t-shirts. So and then when you light the fire, you're starting to open doors, but that's okay because I'd rather be warm than cold. And we do ask it to do a lot. Particularly when we didn't have any blinds here, because you've got a massive amount of windows, so you're asking the heating to do quite a bit, and but we find it a very warm house to live in. And
expensive?
Well, it depends. Talking to my neighbours, no, are actually quite cheap. So we're probably about $120 to $160, depending on how much frost we have to run in the wintertime. So we're only talking, a month. Yeah. And that's not the rest of our power though, because there's lights on and things like that. But the actual, if we're to turn the heating off, that's about what we're running during the winter time. So most of our neighbours do. I get shocked with their
Few
power bills.
hundred.
Oh no, yeah, the some of them are up to $700 or $800. That's quite shocking. But so it's about that to run in the winter time, and that's at 23 degrees. So if you were a normal person and had it at 20 degrees, you'd probably be a lot less.
The tanker really helps to hold that heat.
Oh, absolutely. And a day like today, when you're going to get obviously the solar gain and the concrete takes on the heat during the day, and it just, like, we haven't lit the fire for the last week and a bit. When it's dull, you light it probably more for ambience than warmth.